Hey everybody, this is Donna Elle and this is Caring for the Community, and we are going virtual. And if you look around, it is some beautiful Black brothers on this call from all ages. I said it's some young ones, it's some more mature ones, and we're getting ready to just have a conversation. I purposely wore a shirt for y'all today. Unapologetically dope. That's what you guys are. So that's for y'all, and we're getting ready to have a conversation. I want you to do me a favor. You're gonna introduce yourself. I'm gonna have to kind of tell you who to by first name. And once I do that, tell me your first and last name. But I want you to give me one word to describe how you feel today. All right, one word. Starting with Chris Sands.
All right. My name is Chris Sands, assistant pastor at Olivet. One word to describe me today is hopeful.
Dr. Banks. Uh-oh, Banks is frozen. Eric Foster.
Yes, ma'am. Eric Foster from Brewer Media Group. One word today would be tired.
Tired.
And not in the physical sense.
Okay. Dr. Banks, one word to describe you today. All right. Marcus Shaw, one word to describe you today.
My name is Marcus Shaw. I'm the CEO of CoLab, the company lab. And the word that describes me today is prayerful.
All right. Chris Sands. I said Chris Sands. Chris Ramsey, one word to describe you today.
Hey, good evening. My name is Chris Ramsey. I'm the CEO of the Chris Ramsey Agency. And the one word that described me today is inspired.
Ken Jones.
My name is Ken Jones, and one word really to describe me at this particular moment is excited.
Okay. Mo Baptiste.
Hello, everyone. My name is Moise Baptiste, and the one word that would describe me is balanced.
All right. Gonna try it again. Dr. Banks.
All right. Dr. Banks, one word that was described me is hopeful.
Okay. All right. Darian Scott.
I'm Darian Scott with the Chattanooga Area Chamber of Commerce, and one word that describes me right now is driven.
Okay. Montrell Besley.
Montrell Besley, Director of Community Engagement for Chattanooga Preparatory School, President of Project College. One word to describe me is angry. Angry.
Okay. One word to describe you today, Troy.
Dr. Troy Rogers from the city of Chattanooga. I'm focused and locked in. That's two, I'm sorry.
You gotta have one that's gonna do it different. Did I get Josiah?
No, you didn't.
Josiah, one word to describe you today.
Good evening, beautiful people. I'm Josiah Golson, an artist and lawyer and creator of the 800 Collective. My word is listening.
Think I got everybody, right? Right. Okay. I'm just gonna take a deep dive into the conversation because I didn't know how to start it. I know how I felt over the last couple of days. So when you think of Ahmaud Avery, George Floyd, Shanti Davis, what are some of the words and some of the thoughts that come to mind?
Heartbroken. It's like the 60s all over again. It's like we never left out of the 60s, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's like we're still living in that same era, and it's sad that we hadn't made any progression as far as, laws, policies, police brutality, even at the way we treat one another. We haven't made any progress. It's heartbroken. It's heartbreaking to see, the damage that's being caused, and people are just tired.
Anybody else?
I'll echo.
Go ahead.
I'll echo that. I think for me, when I sit back and I hear those things and I see those things, all kinds of emotions come over me, right? I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm hurt, disappointed, frustrated, and honestly, just flat out pissed off about it. We're at a time where it's like the human life, specifically the Black human life, is considered to be just some easily disposable item. And it's really hard for me to sit back and watch something like that happen and and then watch our justice system in action, and it comes up short every time. That's where, for me, it's really tough and it's really hard to deal with, because they're in this, if the shoe's on the other foot, justice, quote unquote, prevails like a heartbeat, right? But when it's us we're looking for justice, then justice fails us every time.
Was this surprising to any of y'all? Is anybody shocked by what happened?
No.
No.
It's not surprising.
And you say that, Donna, and that's what really hurts me the most, is that we've grown numb to it. It's like we almost expect it, and that's scary. That's scary when a person gets numb to something and it becomes a part of their life. That's scary, especially in the country that we live in today. The
thing that's most troubling is, to Ken's point, that there's appears to be no downside when people hurt us, right? That folks go months without being arrested, that folks have lower charges thrust upon them only to be reversed under the pressure of the entire world calling out for justice, right? That you move from a murder 3 to a murder 2 because you've got hundreds of thousands of people marching in the street, right? That you get the folks down in Brunswick that get arrested only after the video shows up that's been in the district attorney's office for months, right? That's what makes you grow numb. It's the folks on this call all have achieved amazing things, but the fact that all of those things could be taken away in a heartbeat with impunity is what makes, personally, what makes me grow numb.
I do want to ask this, because I know with guys, you guys internalize a lot of things. And I'm interested in knowing, like, what conversation, since this has happened, what conversation have you had with yourselves? What conversation, because you've had a conversation with yourself, Eric?
Not necessarily with myself, just the conversation that I've had with my son. I had the opportunity to go and speak at I guess you can call it diversity inclusion at GPS. And I was talking to Mr. Brock, and I said, well, Mr. Brock, one of the sad things is that the conversations that I have with my son, you will never have to have with your children. I have to instruct my kid on hands on the wheel. We strategically place his license and his insurance, so there's not a threat. And for us to still have to pay taxes, we still have to do what everybody else does, but we have to go the extra mile to ensure that our children are safe. And then when your child comes to you and say, well, Dad, if they really want to kill us, they can kill us. And what do you say to that? And then you have to go to work, and then you have to go to Zoom meetings, and then you have to do all of this stuff. You still have to be this. For Blacks, it seems like we have to think like a superhero just to be normal. We have to, you remember the part of Superman when he says, I hear everything. I hear everybody's complaint. I feel everybody's feelings. And yet and still, we still have to go to work. We still have to perform. A lot of times, 1,000% better than the next person. And you just get tired at some point. And then you get tired of explaining, well, it's against the flag. No, you're missing the point. And then you have to, talk about that all the time. But there is a bright spot, because there are people now that are getting upset that are not of color, that are coming and asking questions, because I had a coworker today that said, I really don't know. Tell me about the blackout on social media because I don't know. And they really didn't know.
Right. I do want to touch on that because that was one of my questions. What do you tell your sons? And I'm a single mama. I have a son. Y'all know most of y'all know I love my son, Brandon. But I can never, Eric will always tell me that when I was his partner on air, you will never be a father. You will never be a daddy. Don't text me on, what is it, Mother's Day, Eric, you used to be on me. Don't text me on Father's Day talking about
On Father's Day.
Yeah, telling me Happy Father's Day. And ever since then, I'm very mindful of that because I can never teach Brandon how to be a man. So I know my conversation with Brandon is a lot different than your conversation would be with those of you who have sons. What are the conversations that you've had with your sons since this has happened? And what do you tell them? Because somebody might be watching right now and just don't know what we say to our sons.
Well, I have two sons, 27 and 23. And the biggest thing that the conversation I'm having with them now has not changed since any situation. The biggest thing that I really help my sons understand is knowing their identity. Because I explained to them, if you don't know your identity, then they're going to place what they think of you on you. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing is really, for me, talking to my sons, is helping them to know who you are, know your identity. Because if you don't, they will impose.
You going in and out.
I don't want that to happen.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Banks. I do want to ask a couple of the other guys that haven't said anything yet. Thank you, by the way. You went in and out on me. But some of you guys are married, and I want to make sure that I touch on that too. What conversations have you had with your wives? What kind of support do you get through that process? And what does that even look like? What is that dynamic? Because I haven't had so many history talks, but I have been talking Black history all week. And I just really want to know, like, what conversations have you had with your wives? I'm going to ask Mo, because Mo is a man of few words. I'm going to reach out to him.
I mean, for me, it's been trying to keep calm my wife because I haven't been watching anything. I have not watched the video. I have not engaged in conversations. I have been on a social media fast, for a while. And so, and she's the one internalizing all this information at one time. And so just trying to get her to pull away from, the onslaught of information and these clips that govern how we see the world right now. And I just refuse to believe that's, the totality of the picture. These are snapshots. It's happening. Please do not think that I'm minimizing it, but how it's projected in the media, I know what that looked like. This is a cycle. And I know how it diminishes the spirit. And I just, trying to get my wife to do the same. And slowly but surely, she's starting to do it too. She's my rock, it's my backbone, and she got my back. And we have a conversation almost every time before I leave the house, so that's been very good. But yeah, it's pulling away. That's what we doing. Going inward, blocking out as much as we can of the world and filtering stuff out because we're not meant to be consuming this much information.
Mo, you did something recently on your social media because you run in on UTC's campus all the time, right? And I don't know if any of you guys are following Mo on Facebook, but he runs UTC campus all the time. And he says a lot of people in his community look at him because they think that he shouldn't be there. And tell them what you did to let them know that you should be there.
Yeah, so right now I'm over there by the Chamberlain Field, by Crossroads. And so this is where I do my podcast and everything. And I claim this as my space. I don't care who feels comfortable about it or not comfortable. I'm the one that live on this campus, not them. So there's a gazebo not too far from the apartment where my wife and I stay, and I was doing a workout, and the police were called on me. So this is the second time in 6 months where the police have been called on me by people that don't live on campus. So I mean, and it's again, I'm from Miami, Florida. There's just certain things that is ingrained in my mind. I know how to identify a police officer, a squad car, unmarked is just second nature to me. So understanding the tactics and the patterns of the police on campus is just second nature to me. So to know in time exactly how fast they're gonna get to me, depending on who's calling, again, this is second nature to me. And almost get it down to the exact second.
Right.
So police were called, they got there, I identified myself, and a couple of days later, I went back to that same gazebo wearing my full doctoral regalia, and I did a workout wearing, a wool PhD costume from head to toe, and posted on Facebook like, I live here, you don't. Is this enough proof that I belong? Please stop calling the police on me. Now, I went to Walmart and bought the poster board and was gonna write, please don't call the police on me, but I figured, I think I had made my point, but I still got the poster boards because there's a pretty good chance I'm gonna have to use them. So I just accept, man, I've been socialized by these United States. So I'm not gonna deny what I've been taught, and I use it to my advantage till this day. So yeah, I hope I answered that question.
Thank you. So is this something that you guys have, I mean, I know the answer, but something that you guys have experienced every day already? Like you said, you weren't surprised, Montreal, but I do want to ask Chris, because Chris, you haven't said much. Ramsey, I'm gonna go to Ramsey. Is this something that you have to deal with every day, explaining who you are as a Black man?
That's a good question, Donna. And really, and all of us are probably college educated and working professional jobs. So even when you go into a boardroom or you go into a meeting in corporate America, or even if you run nonprofit, 99% of the time you're going to be in the minority. You're going to be the sole individual that everybody else does not look like you. And one of my experiences earlier on in my career, and most of you all know me, and so Eric talked about my big belly. I'm 6'6", 330 pounds. So I'm a big guy. And I was literally told by my boss that people are intimidated by my size and by my voice. And most of you all know I don't need a microphone. I mean, I got a boisterous voice. So even in that, one of the things that, and I grew up in a single parent household, and I commend her for doing this, but even my dialect, being in corporate America was an issue. And these are things that we have to face as African Americans, men or women, that our majority counterparts don't have to worry about your dialect. Are you speaking correct English, or are you carrying yourself? Do you, don't be the first to speak up in the meeting because people are intimidated about your loud voice. So, that's something early on that probably happened about 20 years ago. And in a lot of cases, I still have some sensitivity to that. So in a lot of cases, when I go into a meeting, I'm more than likely not the first to speak. I already have a plan going into a meeting, but I have to learn techniques to get people to where I'm thinking and where I'm belonging. But the other thing that I'll say, and again, I'm more concerned about people who don't have fathers in their lives. Eric touched on the fact that he's raising son, Dr. Banks. I have an 18 and 16-year-old. And I've been married for 25 years. So the one thing that this COVID has done is that we spent a lot of family time. And that's probably even, and Eric, and I apologize, but even during the tornado, we were 3 weeks without internet or without cable, okay? So we had to go get a DVD player just to find out at 9 o'clock each night what movie we're gonna watch. Right. But the time that we've had to spend as a family unit has been invaluable. And part of that time is just us talking about things with our kids, talking about goals. But and growing up in Boone Heights and Duncan Avenue, I didn't have that kind of time with my mother and father because my mother worked 2 jobs. My father wasn't around from the time that I was 8 years old through the rest of my life. So I had to learn it in such places like the boys club, growing up and hearing others. So I'm real sensitive to that. And my passion is, and this is my challenge to everybody, and I'm one of the ones who gave Donna a homework assignment. We as men, we know what the issues are, but we're gonna have to commit that we're gonna reach back and we're gonna grab some young men and we're gonna teach them just like we're raising our own kids. And I know Montrell, Troy, and Chris Sands, I'm glad that they stepped up and say, we're gonna take over the Boys Leadership Summit, Chris. I can sit in the back seat and go raise the money, but I realize, and I'm 54 years old, I realize that it's those young men that's gonna come behind me that's gonna carry that torch throughout. Because when I was their age, I didn't have that older generation coming to me and say, Chris, when you're in corporate America, this is how you need to be mindful of and things of that nature. So I'm hoping that one of the takeaways from this experience, and even all of your listeners, is that we're gonna commit to men, because the one thing that I'm not caught up in is the emotions of everything that's going on. Somebody mentioned earlier, this ain't new to us. We expected this. So what are we gonna do about it? Let's stop talking about it and let's be about it.
All right.
So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I got 3 people on here from the faith-based community. And when we go through trying times, we hear you gotta pray, you gotta pray, you gotta pray. Tornadoes, pray. COVID, pray. Racism, continue to pray. What are you guys telling your congregation? What does that look like? Troy, Chris Sands, Dr. Banks, what conversations are you having?
Hey, I'm not a pastor, but I'll answer that question.
Well, you act like one.
I got a lot of guys that I deal with. I mean, but I think it's Frederick Douglass said that, after you pray, you got to get up and do something, get off your knees and make something happen. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling people, man, that we like Chris said earlier, man, we're black males. This happens all the time. And as Montrell said earlier, sometimes you can become numb to that. But we can't stop. We got to keep going. We got to keep striving, and people need us. I deal with the black on black crime. That's kind of my area of my job. I deal with the black on black, murders all the time. So, I tell them, man, keep reaching people, keep discipling people, keep being positive. Even though we still have to deal with what we have to deal with, we just can't stop, because if we stop, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm telling people, we got to keep moving. And it's good to pray. I pray all the time. But if you pray and don't do nothing, you just going to be praying. So you got to get up and make something happen.
Hey, Chris Sands, I need you. And you are a pastor, right?
Yeah.
All right, I knew I had one. Amen. Amen again.
I am. Honestly, is prayer and planning with work that's included. The Bible says faith without works is dead. That's what I believe. So after we pray, what are we going to do? And I think from the faith community, that has been the looming question. How do we work? Where do we put our feet? It was Dr. Miller Brooks. He actually worked and walked, Harold Miller Brooks, he actually worked and walked with Dr. King. And he said something that I would never forget. I had the opportunity to meet him a couple of years ago. He said, together we stick, divided we're stuck. And when he said that, I started thinking about, yes, we need to pray, but then also we need to come together with other brothers and sisters of faith, or just people in general, and we have to figure out what is the real issue. We have to deal with policy. We have to deal with racism. We have to deal with it, and we have to deal with it in tiers. And what I mean by that is we need protesters, but also we need people who can speak truth to power, and we need the right people in the right room, in the right seat. And if we don't have the right people in the right room, in the right seat, then what you will have is a lot of chaos and a lot of catastrophe. And I've been speaking that this week, that if we're not at the table from a church perspective, from a faith perspective, then a lot of the things that we're dealing with, we'll discover that if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. So it's very important for us to make sure that after we pray, we plan at the table, and then we speak truth to power from every aspect of tier to make sure that things happen.
All right, thank you. I'm going to roll it over to Josiah. He's probably over there making some wonderful artwork while he's with us, I can see. You know, you're the youngest of the crew today. It's y'all all about the same age, not. But I do want to ask you this, Josiah. You know, what conversations are you having with your peers, people that are around the same age? Like, is this new? I mean, we want to hear from you.
Even in my age is tragically routine. It reflects a pattern that's gone back 4 centuries, and the one of the mere differences is that we have more equipment to document it, which at once is a powerful tool to be able to call out and to be able to have evidence that the world can see of these crimes and this horror and these things that have been done time after time. And at the same time, it's a tool of trauma because we're having to look at it over and over again. And our peers that don't come from the Black experience, in their shock and terror, they're trying to awaken to it and process it. But then when they communicate with us about it, it just re-traumatizes us over again, along with the burden of doing the work of explaining to them how to figure out something that they could have been learning throughout their lives had it not been shielded from them since childhood and not shielded from their parents and their grandparents and what have you. And so as an artist, and as an artist that works in fostering communication and conversation with people that may be artists or maybe business people or maybe come from any walk of life, a lot of my work is about trying to use creative ways to have dialogue about the world that we're currently in. You know, a town hall meeting or a certain session or a group meeting can be really tense. People come initially already with their charged and they care and they're passionate, but that can lead to just argument and tension that really doesn't get us anywhere. But when I attempt to use art to no matter what your level of skill is, to allow you to get in a certain mindset where you have to tell a story or create a story as opposed to coming with what you've already been force-fed all your life, it's a way to reimagine and rethink about not only the false narrative we've been given about Black inferiority, but what does it look like when we actually get to live fully in our bodies, fully in our breath, fully in our souls, and really pursue the excellence that we've always been capable of, and do it without having to break our necks through barriers time and time again.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think about this week has been a challenging week, not only for me, but just looking at Facebook from some of you guys and so many more people that look like us. And I think about when you walk into that office after you ironed your clothes for the day. Some of you guys are going in the office. Some of you guys are putting on your virtual suit jacket and having your conversations. And my question to you is, how are you managing your emotions as you go into the workplace? And I haven't talked to you, Darian. I would love to hear from you, but I want y'all to all respond to that if you guys can. How are you managing it?
Tell the truth, D.
Man, it can be difficult sometimes. But one thing that I'm really taking from this is, and something Obama said last night when he was speaking, the people in power have to be uncomfortable. You know, and some of us have the opportunity to be around some of these people in power, and they have to understand how you feel as a human first, but as a Black man or woman or what the situation is. So that's why my word was driven. Right now, it's a very critical time for me. I have to push some things in some directions that I think should have been pushed in a direction. And we're gonna see what the outcomes are, and hopefully make some type of impactful change at some level, you know, with some of my work.
All right, thank you. What conversation, like when you go into this workplace, how are you managing your emotions?
I'll go next, man. I'm being brutally honest. I think it's time out to play games and fluff and waste time. I've been talking about social economics, looking at this crime thing from a social economic lens from day one that I stepped into the city. So I'm talking about economics. I'm talking about money. I'm talking about you can't program your way out of this. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a strategy. You know what I mean? And we've got to play the long game. So, you know, anybody that's talking to me, and, you know, my white friends have called me, man, you all right? You good? You know what I'm saying? You know, calling me and texting me. I've been thinking about you, but I've been talking about this since I got here. So I'm Donna Elle, to be real with you, I keep it 100. You know what I'm saying? I let people know that I'm very emotional about this situation. But, man, you want to help, we got to have some economics. We need to have some abilities. And, man, nobody was born to be bad, and nobody was born to do a crime. And this protesting is a good thing because it is putting, like you said, it is putting pressure on people to make the decisions that they would have made. No protest, you would not have the arrest of those people. And, you know, you got Breonna Taylor, you got all these people who've been murdered, but it was something about this homicide that was a tipping point. So you guys, you will have audience with your white friends. I would say you need to be brutally honest because we may never have this opportunity again to let them know how we really feel.
Amen. Yes.
I absolutely echo that because I feel like in this changing world, like two things, and specifically for us in our roles in our work, that each of us have had to navigate these spheres time and time again. And I think at this time, in our own ways, it's a time of setting boundaries and expectations. Boundaries of what we'll not tolerate, boundaries of how much access non-Black folks can have to us, where we can't keep doing all of this emotional labor and making them feel okay for a world that's literally on fire when that world has been burning so long. And now people are finally waking up. And then expectations and what is necessary as far as our reforming and our shifting of our systems and institutions so that we can have these corrections made, and that we can't keep entertaining platitudes or simple comforts that really don't lead to constant and substantial change.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead, Mark.
I mean, I think like Troy was saying, the tipping point here is what's most interesting to me. I mean, I'm 43 years old, and for the better part of 35 years, the way I feel today has played out, right? Like there's nothing has changed, right? If you look back, 5 years ago to Ferguson, it's the exact same thing. So the curious and peculiar thing is the tipping point, and I do believe that there's something that, you know, the COVID crisis has put the world at a pause for people have been still for 90 days, right? People have changed their lives. They've been sitting, they've been reflecting on their own station and status. And so now that we have a triggering event, it's almost like we've been fasting, right? Now we have a triggering event and we react to something in a completely different way than we reacted to the same event just 365 days ago. It is unbelievable what kind of this aggregate social fast has created in terms of our awareness. I want to know how sustainable that's going to be when we go back to our everyday life. Right?
And that was something, Ken, were you going to say something?
No, I was just saying that's a great point.
You know, you guys are saying be transparent. And I'm just going to, you know, play devil's advocate and ask the question. Be transparent with your fellow peers and coworkers. Are you fearful of you losing your job as you're bringing down some walls and tackling some barriers that they've never seen before? Are you fearful of what to say, and what do you say to them?
I just being honest. I wasn't fearful at all because I know, for one, God is going to always provide. And as long as I'm true to myself and taking care of my household and my family, he's going to always be the number one provider. So when they ask me how I'm feeling, I just tell them straight up. I tell them I'm pissed off. I'm telling them I'm angry. I say it in a respectful way, but they know how I feel. But that's what we have to do. We can't be, that's time out for that. We got to be scared. We got to stop being scared that we're going to lose our freaking job. If you have faith, if you believe that what you done was right out of your heart, from the bottom of your heart, you're going to be okay. And there's too many brothers that some people are connected to that's going to help them and take care of them, because that's what a real brotherhood is. So we got to stop being scared of losing a job. We're too talented. We're way too talented to be fearful of a job. I mean, Josiah is a prime example. I mean, to do what he done and walking in faith and doing his art thing is man, it's great. Chris, same thing. I mean, so many brothers in this chat room that start and doing their own thing. It's just amazing.
If you're an entrepreneur, do this. I want to see entrepreneurs. Any entrepreneurs? Got your side hustle. I love it. Even if it's a side hustle, you got your full-time job and your side hustle. I love it. I always tell people I owe my side hustleness to, I know who's gonna say something, Darian Scott. Show me how to multi-layer.
That's my dude.
Yeah, no, show me how to multi-layer different streams of income.
I showed Donna how to count 20s, y'all. It was amazing.
Right.
That's 50,000. Just I showed how to count 20.
Did we have to say thousand?
But I do want to comment on that too, Montreal, because that's what it's about. And like when we're joking about it, all I know is the hustle. So at the end of the day, I'm about speaking up for what's right, especially when it's so blatantly in people's face, and they think they feel a type of way about it. So let me explain this to you, what it's really like. So and not just what it's like, what can be done from you, you know what I'm saying, to make the difference. And like Montreal said, it's always good to say these things in a respectful way. But my thing is now, if people are not paying attention, if they don't feel any type of way, if they're numb to it, it's a real problem, especially if it's a person in power. And and y'all know me, I love this city, you know what I'm saying? When you're dealing with a city like this, you have to make sure you're making your point clear.
Right. 34% Black people in Chattanooga, in case you don't know. 34% Black, 23% below the poverty level, if you've never heard those numbers.
Can I chime in on that, Donna? So, yeah, and I'll tell y'all, I know when you asked, name one word to describe you, and I said I was excited. Let me tell you guys why I said I was excited. First and foremost, being on this call with all of you all, right? Because everybody on this call has been impactful in your roles in the community, in your job places, for whatever you're doing. So it's really exciting to me to sit here and learn from you all and be a part of this discussion. The other part, as it relates to the open, honest conversations that you're having at work, to me, this is why part of that additional excitement, because it allows me to be open and honest and direct and straightforward and really have those conversations that we should already have been having with all those people that are in leadership, that are in charge, that let them know not only how I feel, but make sure they understand that while I am a Black man, I still don't represent the whole. So it's not just stopping right here with one person. You have to go look and talk to and understand from multiple people, because while all of us have the same skin color, every one of us have a different story. Every one of us have a different background. Every one of us have experienced certain things that the other one has not experienced. Even though our experiences have been similar, we still are all very, very different. And all of those stories need to be heard. All of those stories need to be told. And all of those stories need to be talked about. And that's the piece that's got me excited, because even like Chris put in the text message when he said he gave Donna homework, he said, let's have some actionable items behind this. And I think that is critically important. It's great that we're all on this call, sitting here, having this discussion and talking about things and airing out, you know, what's happening and going on. But at the end of the day, if we stop here, we are just as much failing our Black community as anybody else. So it starts with us, and the challenge that I want to issue to all of us, not just myself, but all of us, is not to let this be the last conversation, not to let this be the last action item, but for us to stand up for what we believe in and for what we know is right, and for us to move this community and the surrounding communities forward in the right direction of what it should go. So continue to have those open and honest conversations with whoever it is, whether it's people that, and I know it's taxing and I know it's it's tiresome, but continue to have those conversations with those people that want to understand it, that need to understand it. Continue to have it with your peers, continue to have it with your subordinates, continue to have it with your executive leadership, continue to have it with your neighbors. I don't care who it is, continue to have that conversation, because there's a lot of people that came before us that laid the foundation, that they have suffered a long time for us to have just the freedom that we have right now. Exactly. You know, it wasn't too long ago that we as a Black community got the right to vote, right? So we need to talk about voting, getting out to the polls, not just in the federal election, but your local elections. Those are the elections that people always forget about. Well, I voted for the president, or I don't like this candidate, so I'm not voting. No, I'm not going to the polls for the local elections because, one, I don't know anything about it. Find out who's running for mayor. Find out who's running for Senate. Find out who's running as your representative. Find these things out and learn and get your butt out there and vote, because those are the things that's going to really help us when we are making, as it's already been said, making those people in leadership uncomfortable in their seats and letting them know that we have a message we expect and want it to be heard. All right.
Thank you. So the other day, I started out on Monday. So this is how my emotions went, because y'all look like y'all managing y'all emotions very well, but I guess I'm learning from y'all. But I started out Monday with saying trying times around my office, uncertainty, you know, that we're going through in this Black community. Those were the words that I was using. So I have a conversation with Ken and I say, okay, the words are uncertainty. And he was like, well, what exactly are the words? Like, what's really happening? I was like, well, I don't know what to discuss. I was really fearful of what to say to my colleagues. And that's just me being very nervous. Like, what should I help what conversation should I help my team with? How should I say it? He was like, well, what is it? He never calls me out on this kind of stuff. So I'm like, well, it's racism and it's brutality. And I felt such a freedom today because that conversation went from uncertainty to my team to this is what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And are you ready to face what it is? Because first of all, as a community, we got to be ready to face what it is. Mm-hmm. So I do want to ask this. I got 3 texts today. Y'all probably got some too from my white friends. Mm-hmm. And I saw some posts on Facebook. Me and Eric were tagged in. Thank you so much for my friends calling us up by name. And I appreciate y'all if y'all watching. Thank you. Donna taught me this. Eric taught me this. Donna, what do I do? What do I say? And somebody said it earlier. What do I do? What do I say? They don't know. What is your response to them during this time when they're sending you those texts? And I know, Troy, you said be transparent, but Dr. Banks, have you got a text like that? Chris Ramsey, have you got a text like that?
Yeah, I have. I just tell them to stand with me.
I had a conversation. I had a conversation with a guy today, and he's Caucasian, and he was just saying, Dr. Banks, I'm so angry. I want to do something. I want to help. And I just told him, I said, first of all, I just need you to respect. Because you're trying to understand and want to jump out there and do something right now. I just need you to just really respect the situation because you're emotionally driven. You know, I want to do something, and right now your biggest thing is I just need you to respect and trying to make them understand. I think that's what has frustrated all of us, trying to make our counterpart understand what we're going through, because they are looking at Mr. Floyd, but we're looking at the 400 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the difference, because, you know, why are you so angry about Mr. Floyd? But this is a culmination of all the things that have led up to this. And I think that's where the misconnect is. I can't believe people are protesting all over the world for Mr. Floyd, but it's been histories of this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and Dr. Banks is like they talking about Mr. Floyd, but what about Ed Johnson though?
Right.
Thanks.
Right.
Fighting the same fight right here all this time, but we don't see him out in the streets doing that though.
But
Ed Johnson.
you know what we have to do, man. And a lot of times, think about it. Whatever business that you're in, you need data, you need analytics, you need to be able to know where you've been so that you can know where you're going. And it's the same thing when you have to teach whites what's going on. I recommend to all of my white friends that really care, go to whenever it opens, go to DC, go to the African American Museum and see the history of how everything happened, how race was basically created here in the United States. Because back in the day, it wasn't about black and white. It was about he's from Italy, she's from Germany, he's from Budapest or wherever. But then once you get the big engine of slavery running, first and foremost was just totally about economics. This is about free labor. This is about keeping our costs low. We've got slaves. Let's make this money. And then they said the poor whites were in the fields with the slaves. And then the slave master said, all right, well, wait a minute. We need to come up with some type of system, because at a certain point, the slaves and the indentured servants, the poor whites, we worked together. They were raising kids. They were doing all of the stuff, and they were mixing and mingling. And then the slave master said, now we got to separate this. So poor white guy, you're not a slave. So let's just go ahead and make you a slave master or overseer, because yeah, you're poor and I'm sorry about that, but at least you're not an N-word. At least you're not a slave. So then that started the race system. And then you start building on top of that. You've got to peel all of those layers back so that they can see that. But when you're white and you've never had to face any type of adversity, unless you're just poor, a lot of times it just comes down to money. It's not a black and white thing sometimes. Sometimes it's just a green thing. And
Donna, can I make one follow-up on Eric's point? Because I think it's critical, and I think we may see it now. You know, I saw Montreal. We had some of my buddies came over, and the brilliant kids that are over there at Chat Prep. Racism, once slavery was done, racism is wholly uneconomic. It doesn't make any sense, because you have beautiful, brilliant human beings that you don't allow to fulfill their potential, and therefore the whole country's suffering for that, right? So there's the irony here is that the racism that people are perpetuating is actually keeping the country from being as great as you can. Because Montreal's got a school full of incredible young men who, if you remove racism from the factor and let them fulfill their potential, we'll have, there's a black Elon Musk sitting over there right now. Mm-hmm. But if he's got to deal with the pressure of, oh my God, it's like, I call it the 110-degree day, where it's hot as hell outside and you work all day. You got to do the same thing that you're doing when it's 70 degrees, but you get home and you're just exhausted because the heat's been beating you down all day. That's what racism's like. We do go into the same thing that everybody else does. But now we're having this conversation at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right? So that's not economic. And I think people are starting to see that.
Let me follow. Go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Troy. Go ahead.
Man, all I was going to say was, Donna, I am transparent, but I have took a Caucasian person with me every day this week to feed. I feed. Me, Chris, we feed every day. On my lunch break, we go to the West Side and feed. We go to the community kitchen and feed. And we go to the elderly and feed every single day. We fed over 12,000 people since March 16th. And what these white people say is they did not know that this was down there. And you got to put them in it to let them feel it, because if they don't, and I had them working. No, you get out, you give them the water. No, I'm not. No, you're gonna give it to them. You're gonna walk over here to the tent. You're going to talk to them. You got to make we're not getting nowhere. If they're not uncomfortable, you see where we are from them being comfortable.
Right.
If they're not uncomfortable, we will not be able to move the envelope. And guys, we have to call it what it is. You know, we have to call it what it is. Martin Luther King didn't walk that time, but we at the same spot. If we don't make it, if y'all try to appease them right now, we're gonna lose every piece of momentum we got. I take them with me. I make them talk to people, and I let them know that nobody wants to be homeless. Nobody wants to go to prison. It is a systematic situation that has messed our people up. I'm fired up right now. Hallelujah! Come on, hey, let's go. I got Donna Elle. Hey, don't let Donna Elle go in front of you in trouble. I got her today. Let's go. You. Let's go, baby.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead, Chris.
So to piggyback to what Troy said and to what Eric said and Ken and everybody else have said, Dr. Banks, I think also what we have to do is when it comes to that understanding piece, tell them to watch, listen, and serve. And after you watch, listen, and serve, here it is. Use your influence and your privilege to give voice to reason. Does that make sense? Because with influence, a lot of times they have circles that some of us have never been in. They have tables that some of us have never sat at. And when they can experience firsthand for themselves, and they can speak from privilege to places that a lot of us cannot speak to. Have you ever saw a conversation between someone of color and someone that's not of color have a conversation about politics or something to try to move policy? But if a white person or Caucasian person goes in to talk to somebody who is a white supremacist about something, and they're able to dialogue and they're able to understand how to change some stuff based on that particular communication, when we have allies and people on our side that can use their influence to help push the conversation forward, we don't need you to come in and do anything else per se. We just want you to understand that, listen, we do need your influence after you have watched, listened, and served for some time, if that makes sense. If you have never served, you don't know. If you've never really been around in these circles, then you don't know what to do. You're like a fish out of water. This is not your environment. But if you watch, if you sit, if you listen, and you serve, okay, I have a better idea where to put my privilege.
Okay, I will say this now. That, you know, this is a sister intervening. Sometimes even us, and I'm not saying everybody on it. Sometimes we need a tune up every now and then to go and serve. You know, because then I also want to say this. Everybody is called for different things. God has placed us with different gifts. So I might not be the one to go out and pass the water, but I might be the one to say, I want to talk to 10 brothers and put them on the line and inspire somebody. So we gotta sometimes I think we forget about meeting people where they are.
Correct.
And I can say you bring somebody out and take them and bring them to certain areas and take them along the way, and that's fine. But sometimes you gotta even though you say let them know everything, tell them everything, it's certain things you can't take a 3-year-old to do that you can't take that a 16-year-old would do something different. So we gotta be mindful of that. That's just me speaking just a little.
Donna, and I think what you just said, in addition to all the incredible points made, speaks to one of the things at the heart of the matter, which is that we're navigating a country's identity crisis. Racism has forced us as Black people, displaced from our ancestors, displaced to forge our own identities from scratch and do so beautifully. And now at this point in time, you have a lot of Americans that are not Black, specifically white Americans, that are realizing their identity has been a lie. So when you're working with them and helping them understand our experiences, it's just as much having them have to do soul searching for their own experience, because most of what they've been projected about themselves through media, through government, through literature, through the false narrative of history has been a lie. And like James Baldwin said, if integration means anything, it means that we with love have to force our white brothers and sisters to see themselves and to be able to undo that so that we can actually coexist together.
And that's terrifying for them.
And that, when I love the example that Troy used about having people do the work, being on the ground, as well as Dr. Banks' point about respecting the situation, because one of the main issues in nonprofits is because people have a savior complex. You have to figure out as a white person what your role is without confusing it with a hero's role. Just because you're essential to the fight doesn't mean you're the center of the fight.
That's good.
Well, I like that.
Very nice.
So,
Good. Hallelujah. That's
we're gonna
good.
have to use that as a quote. We're gonna have to, y'all write, somebody write that down. All right,
It's recorded.
Hey, can I say this, Donna?
please do.
I want everybody to, to know that we are putting up a good fight. I mean, everybody here has reached a certain level of success. I know that we're tired, but at the same time, we're in media, Donna, so we know that the whole story is not being told. So we've got fathers here, we have business owners here, we have people that have served on boards locally, regionally, nationally. So let's not forget that we are doing great things. We've raised kids, we've put kids in school. So I know that it's kind of aggravating that we still have to explain ourselves and we still have to, go the extra mile. But at the same time, we are here because, one, our fathers and mothers paved the way. We continue to listen. I mean, just a couple of days ago, I rejoined the NAACP because let's get back to the roots of how we got to where we are right now, how everybody is able to have their own laptop or device to be able to, to communicate. But we are doing a great job. And I don't want us to think that we are not,
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Donna, can I make one point too? My thing is, and the question was asked about the white friends texting you. I had a physician that said he want to meet with me to pray with me, and I didn't know how to respond. So we're gonna do it tomorrow, but I'm skeptical in a sense because my whole philosophy is people need to be the change that they want to see. And I don't know who coined that phrase, but to me, the proof is in the pudding. You can't get caught up in the emotions. At this point in my life, I'm observant enough to look at your walk. It's not just your talk, but it's what you're doing. And many of you all in my challenge, and like you said, we're all from a lot of different aspects. I got a lot more freedom now since I work for myself. And we got to start. I wish somebody would have told me that I had to go through a layoff. I had to go through a transition in my life because I was comfortable and I was making a huge salary. And for them to come to me and say, Chris, your job has been eliminated. Now here's the thing, and Montreal pointed this out, but God provided me with a severance package. And Donna, you work with me at Tech Town. I'm sorry I mentioned that name. You can edit that out. But even after you got to get your side hustle, right? But even after that's over with, and I know Marcus Shaw is at the collab, and I was right up above him, and I seen the wonderful things that he's doing. We got to start teaching y'all young people. We got to start teaching each other. How do we create? And I know Dr. Banks been doing it for a while. How do we create our own so we can have the freedoms and we don't have to be worried about if I'm going to lose my job, if I'm going to say something. So a lot of things you all been hearing about me in the news, and I've been real bold about it. We need to have free COVID testing for the entire community. And I want to go into the politics of this, but I've literally have sent emails to people where I don't care anymore. I want to make sure everybody pay taxes. I want to make sure that there's free testing available for everybody. I was up at Ray County for six hours yesterday, and there are underserved people in Ray County. So we got to make sure that we're bold enough to speak the truth, and that we advocate for what we believe in. But again, I hope that after this, that there are some takeaways that we can start doing some of this. And lastly, I want to say, and Donna, you are the Ruby key of this generation, because it took a Donna Elle to bring all of us Black men together. I wouldn't have never thought of this concept. So I want to commend you, Donna, because some of you all don't know Sister Ruby Key. She the one who put together a group of Black men that started the 100 Black Men of Chattanooga some 20-something years ago. So Donna, you're the only female on this, but it took a Donna Elle to bring all of us together. And I'm quite sure she had all of us in her phone. She called each one of us, and you don't tell Donna no. So y'all, let's give Donna a round of applause for doing this.
Thank you, Chris. I had this vision about 6 months ago, and when I had it 6 months ago, I didn't know why I had the vision. So I was actually on the phone with Ken the other night, and I said, this is what I want to do, and he didn't knock it. So when he felt like it was okay, I was like, well, let me text one more person. I didn't tell him I was going to do it. Let me text one more person to see if they'll do it. And nobody said no. Like, every one of y'all, I love y'all for a different reason, for either something that I've seen you do, how you guys have inspired others, and what you have poured into this community. And whether pouring into this community was just pouring into little old me, that's enough. You know what I mean? Because y'all know I got a big mouth, everybody gonna hear about it. But I do want to say this. I got 3 more questions, because we got to wrap this up, because we could go 2 hours, and I know y'all don't want to do that. But I do want to ask, Mo is not from Chattanooga. I think everybody, and Marcus is not from Chattanooga. A few other people are not from here, but Mo just got here. And I've been in so many conversations with people that have said, how do we keep Black talent here in Chattanooga? Why are people leaving? And if you could say anything to anybody that's listening about how we can keep Black people, Black men, bold, strong, beautiful Black men and their families in Chattanooga, what would you say to them?
You should ask me, right?
I want to get Mo to do it real quick.
All right. Yeah, for me, I would say, again, I would say within the past year, my feelings have been changing about Chattanooga as far as opportunities. I always felt that the city had a lot of potential from day one. I just didn't feel that I would be the one benefiting from its potential. But I will say, though, to answer your question, the investment opportunities at a reasonable rate, it's what excites me about this city, because again, the potential is so great, and this city is going to blow up. I want to be one of the first as an outsider to say it. This city is going to be one of the most sought out places to live. I can assure you that. And it's already starting to happen. And I think for me, me and my wife being a part of that, however we can make that happen, we want to invest in the community. We want to invest and set some kind of route that even if we were to leave, we'll always have a reason to come back. Really getting with the outdoors, taking advantage again of Smoky Mountains. I'm in the Smoky Mountains, and when I tell people that that's not from here, y'all take it for granted because you're from here. People that's not from here, from Miami, that's flat and only 8 feet above sea level, when they hear about Chattanooga, they're like, oh, that's different, you know. And people are looking for alternative ways to relax, especially Black folks. So I picture just a whole bunch of Black folks flocking here to Chattanooga to take advantage of what the city has to offer. And it's going to happen. I want to win. I want to benefit from that. So that's what keeps me afloat. That's what my optimism, as it relates to Ken Jones and some of the other brothers that we talk about. You know, D. Scott especially. I can't thank them enough, because they have helped change my mindset as far as not focusing on what has been going on, but what can happen. And again, it's pretty affordable. It can happen. So we the Avengers. That's what I look at all these people on this thing, you know, and all of us with our superpowers, man. But you know, we gotta remove ego, just like on the movies that we love, and say this is the common goal that we have. So with all our personalities, we can work together. So Avengers, what's up?
All right. I'm gonna toss this over to everybody, then we're gonna wrap it up after this. And you can ask one or two, you can answer one of the 2 questions. One of them is diversity inclusion. Is that Does it stop here? Or you can answer both if you want to. Is this the end of it? Are they just doing this just for now? And number two is, what does hope look like? Where do we go from here? Diversity and inclusion, that's two different questions, but is that here to stay? Because that's been the buzzword right now. That's been the thing that everybody, diversity and inclusion, and people are jumping on right now. They want to help.
Donna,
right?
everybody freezing up on my side.
That's just you. That's just you. Everybody move up here.
I'm finna say, is it just somebody wave or something? Is it just my internet? Yeah. You using the free version of Zoom or something? What's going on here?
We're gone past the 40 minutes, sir, so you know I paid for mine. Mine in advance. That's a write-off. All right. Back at it real quick. So diversity and inclusion, what does that look like? Do you think that's a buzz thing right now? Do you think we're moving forward with it? And then also, where do we go from here, fellas? Y'all all can answer. A few of y'all can answer. We're over time, but I just, go ahead, Montreal, you ready? Go.
I want to take that second question. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Me and Troy, man, this is all we talk about. What's next? And what's next is our youth. We continue to live.
Wait a minute, hold on. Somebody is typing right now, so if you're typing, please go on.
Take notes on what's next for me. Don't be trying to steal these out.
On the clock trying to type.
That
was D. We know that was Darian. We know that was you.
I know I can't type. I'm just making sure.
Go ahead, Montreal.
Is what's next, and what's next, like I was saying, is our youth. All the time that we just keep leaving them out of the picture, and it's going to be another misguided generation if we don't include them on what's going on and explain to them about what a protest is and what a protest looks like. So we have to start with them and include them and talk to them about, the next steps. How can y'all help this cause? How can y'all participate in this movement? How can y'all participate in this revolution? And educate them, and and it's just guidance, So that's our next steps. That's what we got to do, and we got to show them an example by doing it ourselves, with this group or with whatever group it is. It don't matter, but we got to lead by example.
All right, I'm gonna call y'all out. If you don't want to do it, just pass, because I don't want to see. I'm gonna go with Ken Jones. What's next?
Well, what's next is, as we all kind of said in our own little different ways, and this actually, I think this actually kind of goes along with, is diversity and inclusion here to stay, is we have to keep moving forward. We have to keep pressing forward. We can't let up, right? I mean, we still have to continue to have these conversations. And, I know Eric and Marcus, they both talked a little bit about it. I mean, studies have shown when you have diversity amongst your organization that it increases your bottom line. And from a business perspective, everybody wants to see that profit margin increase, right? So when you have that diversity of knowledge and that diversity that comes up with these different ideas, and you have that collaborative environment within your organization, then success happens. But in order for us to make sure that continues, we have to make sure we continue to have those open and honest conversations, those direct conversations. And also, to Montreal's point, we have to make sure that we're reaching back to our youth, not only to our youth, but to our young adults, to people that look like us, that are younger than us, that are coming up behind us. Because I can venture to bet at some point in all of our careers, we didn't have that mentor talking to us and telling us, hey, this is the things that you need to do or you should be doing, right? So we have learned those lessons, and it's up to us as leaders in this community for us to go back and talk to, whether it's young adults, college kids, high school kids, middle school kids. I mean, every one of us, I know you guys are Troy, Chris, Montreal, you guys are all working with kids in various fashion and various arenas, right? And I know Montreal reached out to me and he talks to me all the time about, hey man, I need more mentors for Chat Prep, right? So why not us, right? Why not us? Why not go mentor one of those young men at Chat Prep? Marcus was talking about how sharp they are. They're our next generation. We have to be the ones that train them and teach them and show them. You know, I grew up without a father, you know, so I made a lot of mistakes not understanding how to be a man. But once I learned how to be a man, now I try to instill that not only in my son, but I also try to teach my daughter, you know, what it's like to be a man. And then I also do mentoring with both middle school, high school, college, and young adults, because I think it's critically important for me to pass along what I've learned so they won't make the same mistakes I made, and make sure that we, not only that, but we're actually training and preparing a pipeline to take over for us, very similar to what Chris Ramsey mentioned about the Boys Leadership Summit. You know, he was out there, he's been doing that for so long, and now he's kind of passing the torch and just kind of being that mentor for these guys that are coming in behind him. So we all have to do that same thing. That's what's going to keep our hope alive. That's what's going to keep the diversity and inclusion alive. And that's what's going to make sure that we're here to stay.
Okay.
Hey, Donna, I would like to chime in.
Okay, go ahead.
I think for me, the next step,
You're going.
as African Americans, for so many years, we've always looked towards a leader, a Dr. Martin Luther King, something like that. I think it's important that as far as African Americans, we understand that we are leaders. And instead of trying to look for the leader to speak for us, we have to be the leader that we're looking for. And I think if we've truly understood our purpose and really teach leadership, I think definitely what Montreal is doing at the school and helping young men understand that they are leaders. They don't need games to feel that, looking for a leader in a game, but they can be that leader they're looking for, because leaders, they make decisions much different than a follower. So I think if we can teach young African-American boys that they are leaders and helping them, I think they can really make better decisions.
Thank you.
Hey, Donna, and talk about what's next. I mean, we definitely got to have action steps, but one of the most important things to me, I think, is accountability. You know, I'm gonna hold myself accountable, of course. I want you guys to hold me accountable, but hold everybody accountable around you. If they say they're gonna ride this ride with you, and they open with you like that, hold them accountable, because we need people speaking on this even when we're not around. I mean, our white colleagues and counterparts or friends or whatnot, they got to stand up to other people who may feel those unfortunate racist ways. They got to stand up to those people when we're not around and not just accept it, because what they call it, silence is betrayal. It's a real thing. So we need more people speaking out about that to each other.
Thank you. Who else wants to jump in?
I'll jump in and turn up right quick. I think that man, we have to be vigilant. We have to continue to understand. And guys, we're gonna need finances. I'm gonna keep saying it since I've been to the city. Economics, money. Guys, I understand your time and it's cool. It's cool to go, you know what I'm saying? We cannot program this. Get your mind off of another program. We have got to have a systemic, we've got to have a streamlined strategy where we can put finances in the pockets of young people. People with money are not going to prison. Just want to let y'all know that. Most young men that go to prison don't have any money. And guess what, guys? They cannot read or write. So we've got to begin to close those doors by educating them on the power of a dollar, stocks, buying property, buying buildings. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that we're going to do. Me and Chris Sands are going to do something really big here soon, where we're going to lead the way in something. We're going to do something for a family. But guys, understand that money, economics. Don't let them get you off focus. Don't let them lull you to sleep with drinking tea to where you forget that we need economics.
What kind of tea is that, Troy? What kind of
what I said was
from Get Out.
Hey, where my boy Josiah at? What I said was don't let them keep taking you to Starbucks and drinking tea and crumpets, and you forget that we need some money. They'll lure you to sleep, and then you forgot that we better have some money. We can't do another program. We right here from programming. Strategy.
Yeah.
Strategy.
Yeah. And that's the next step, strategy. We need to talk policy and include people from different races, from different colors, to get on the same page to really provoke change. Here it is. If we don't change policy, we're going to end up right back here. Right. And that's the truth to the matter. So we have to talk about policy as it pertains to police brutality and how they see us as a people. We got to talk about policy as it pertains to education. We got to talk about what they're doing in the county and things of that nature. And we really have to work on this policy. So for me personally, one of the things that I'm really want to make sure that I'm doing personally is let's look at the policies that are already in place. What is it that is holding the police officers where they can get off on certain murders and things like that on the local level, on the national level, and things of that nature. But then also, what can we do to educate our young people on their rights and letting them know how to respond when they seem like a threat to people that they shouldn't even be a threat to. When you're 13 to 14 years old, or you just look like a threat, what do you say to the police? How do you respond? And raising our young people to know how to do that, so that when they know their rights, they won't be able to mess with them like they mess with some of us. You know, Frederick Douglass, and I say this all the time, said, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I believe it's our charge and our challenge that every young person, every young adult, that whatever we know in our lanes, because Dr. Banks just said it, Brother Ken just said it, here it is. We are all leaders in our own right. And that's not just one leader, but we can unite as leaders to lead multitudes of people into their purpose and their destiny.
Does anybody have a collection plate? Because I just felt like it was getting ready to go around.
I'm hopeful.
We're watching the church right now. Amen. Amen.
That's
Amen.
it.
Who else wants to chime in? Eric, you got something? Where do we go next? What's next?
I would look at organizations that have a history of putting brown people and black people on the forefront. Like I said, the NAACP, I think last year they had a lobbying budget of like $1.4 million, and that is not a lot of money to go up into DC and to try to make change. Mm-hmm. So we got to look at organizations that helped us get to where we are right now, and start looking back at what happened to our forefathers and mothers that all they had was the church and all they had was each other. Now we have so much more resources that we can pool together. We need to start looking at whatever those organizations are. Pick one, choose one, but make sure that you are like Noop said, money says a lot. I remember when everybody was upset about Riverbend and the ticket prices went up, and man, what are we gonna do now? And I talked to Darren. I think I talked to Montreal about it as well. If it's 60,000 blacks in Chattanooga and everybody threw in $60, you got 3.6. We're not thinking that way collectively. I'm pretty sure everybody individually can look at their portfolios and say I'm doing okay. But collectively, we need to come together and join organizations and put our money to it, because and I'm not saying this in a negative way. We go to church and we put money in the plate every Sunday. So now we need to start, in addition to that, going to other organizations that can take that money and go and speak for us collectively, so that we can start changing laws and we can start changing policies. So once we start doing that, we need to start looking at ourselves first before we should start looking for help from anybody else. So let's clean up our house first before we start moving forward. And then I think we're on the right path now.
Hey, my Cash App is MONTY.
And you
see
let me. Who else? Who didn't I get? Josiah, did you?
I'll say one thing. And Josiah, I'll let you close it out there. I do believe that education continues to be the greatest lever that Black people have ever enjoyed, and I do believe that Chattanooga continues to be woefully behind that mark in terms of a higher education attainment, right? And so I think there are a couple of reasons. I lived in a bunch of cities up and down the East Coast, from New York to Atlanta, for the last 25 years. I always felt that the absence of a black college really put pressure on the growth of the black community in neighborhoods where you have a critical amount of black people. Like you said, 35%. So the key is, whether our kids are going to black colleges or white colleges, it doesn't matter. But the key is, how do you get them back once they go to college, right? Because if you don't get them back, you aren't bringing the men that are on this call.
Right.
Right?
That's
and
good.
in this one generation, this call goes from 11 men to 3 men. Right? And so you got to think, I think we have to be very, very strategic in planning out a pipeline of leaders that are now, 12 years old. Where are they going to be when they're 18? Where are they going to go to college? Who's running the hiring practices that are going to create opportunities for them to come back that are as competitive as Atlanta or Nashville? Because if you're a high-performing young black man or young black woman, and you're saying, I'm coming out of school and I got $100,000 of debt, and I want to go to the most competitive opportunity I can go to, there might only be 20 jobs in Chattanooga, but there are 2,000 in Atlanta, right? And so we've got to be very, very deliberate about preparing a pathway for high-performing black leaders that are from Chattanooga to come back to Chattanooga and grow that pipe, right, instead of shrinking it. And I think that's the future, right? And that is happening in other communities, whether people admit it or not. Right? There's a reason why when we look across the landscape, that you see multiple generations of non-black leaders in cities like Chattanooga, but you don't see multiple generations of black leaders in cities like Chattanooga.
Thank you, Marcus. I think we haven't asked Josiah. I think I got everybody else.
Josiah finna bring it home for us.
I didn't want to follow Josiah. I'm telling you, I know that.
Yeah, you know he gonna kill it.
I got stuck between Chris and Josiah. I couldn't do nothing.
Josiah, can I ask you this if you don't mind? How old are you, by the way?
33.
33. Okay.
Yes, the Scottie Pippen year. I absolutely everyone, especially what Marcus just said about education has been a defining force in my life. Since I'm an artist, I'll quote an artist. Jill Scott Heron said, "The revolution will not be televised." I don't know if he thought it might be Zoom, but it definitely wouldn't be televised. And I received those words as not seeing like a revolution of violence, but because we're not going to be fed the revolution from TV or from Facebook or from Instagram. It's going to happen in here. And it's going to happen, and the more we are in contact with our young people, the more we're in contact with each other, the more we're in contact with our elders, the more that revolution builds. It's a revolution of identity, realizing what we're worth, realizing how precious we are, realizing how beautiful we are, realizing that all the gaslighting over the past several centuries are lies, and that our life from beginning to end is absolutely essential and is absolutely important as anyone else's, and that we have to figure out creative ways to communicate that day in, day out, and remind ourselves of it, remind our loved ones of it, remind our children of it, and give them the tools to be able to form their own identities, form their own revolutionary personas as they come and take ownership of this world.
All right. Chris, did I get you, Ramsey?
No, I'll end with a joke, man. Mo Baptiste, man, we've been on this call a long time. The brother been blacked out, man. What's up with that, man? That brother been blacked out. No, you better hurry up before the UTC cops come looking for us. I don't have anything else to say. This has been great. I just want to thank you and applaud you again for bringing us together.
Donna.
I don't want any more Zoom calls though. So if it's about the strategy, let's get to working, okay? But we better get him some light though. We better get Mo Baptiste some light.
gonna say this, so I'm gonna give you guys a challenge because y'all gave me homework. So this is a series that I'm starting. So this week you guys were the first ones who launched this. Next week I have women. I have 10 women, and we're gonna have the same conversation, women leaders that are in this community. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have more men. So I ask that you guys reach out to another brother that needs to be on this call, somebody that can give us information and pave the way for the next leaders, as you guys had mentioned. So if you know somebody, give them my cell number and tell them I want in to this Black conversation about Black men in this community. That's the next thing. And my goal after this, hopefully, if it's God's will, we'll all be able to be in person. Because somebody told me if I want to have a plan, I need to build out a strategy. I know who that person is, and he know he is. Another person told me if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And this is not about money to me, but I'm going to ask you guys. I want to do this in person if it's God's will. I can see us. I know you guys do it with the Boys Leadership Summit, but we don't see men show up like we need to see men show up. And you guys are beautiful. You're bold. Sometimes you feel like you're walking alone, but I just want you to know that we're right here. And if we're not right here beside you guys, reach out to me, and I'm gonna make sure y'all got the support that you guys need. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We made history tonight, y'all. I love it. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Everybody take care.
Thank y'all. Y'all take care, man.
Love y'all.
All right. Yo.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Y'all too, man.